What's up, Salt? How we doing? Oh, my bad. Good to see you guys. How we doing? All right, good. Good stuff. Good to be back with you guys. My name is Ryan. Super happy you're here. If you're new especially, please come out and make a friend in the lobby afterwards. Me or one of the staff would love to meet you guys, welcome you, get you connected whatever ways we can. We're going to continue through our Proverbs study tonight. We are trucking along. We were doing that last semester, and we are doing it more this semester because we love this series in the Proverbs. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about friendship, okay? Do you know that phrase? Heard it in movies or whatever. He fell in with the wrong crowd. Pretty common phrase. What does that look like for somebody to fall in with the wrong crowd? Okay, let me tell you a little story. Got a little rope here. Tell you a story about a guy named Joe that I was friends with in high school. Okay, I'm going to put this rope right here. I'm going to cut the stage in half there a little bit. Joe was one of the funniest friends I had in high school. I loved him. He looked a little bit like Danny DeVito, if you know who that is. That's so mean of me to say. Joe was great. I moved into town, and he was one of the first friends I had, and he was just so funny. Like, I loved being around him. I think the distinguishing thing about Joe is that everybody loved being around him. I met him at church even before I met him in high school, at school. He was involved with our youth group. He was on the worship team. He played drums, all that stuff. And he was kind of like one of the cornerstones of our youth group, like our group of friends who were following Jesus together. He was a part of that. It was great. But like I mentioned, Joe was kind of popular wherever he went, okay? And he hadn't been following Jesus for that long. And so kind of like over here, just imagine like all of his church friends. Okay, people who were doing this kind of stuff together, right? We're trying to follow the Lord and pursue godly lives together. But then over here, on this side of that rope, was his non-Christian friends, right? The people who wanted other things out of him, who were influential, maybe not towards godly living, but living for the world and living in sin. And so what was Joe going to do? What was he going to, was he going to hang out with us? Was he going to hang out with them? What do you think? Well, this is what Joe thought. He saw this line in the middle, this rope, and he attempted to do the impossible. He attempted to tightrope it, okay? Don't look too closely. I can't even do this right here, but this is what he was trying to do. He was trying to tightrope it, okay? He was trying to kind of get the best of both worlds. Like he obviously recognized whatever is happening here is good. Like, this is powerful stuff. Like, he's feeling uplifted at youth group. He's serving. He's got good friends who love him for who he, like, that's good. He recognized that. But he also wanted what his other friends were doing, right? Even if it disagreed with this lifestyle, he wanted it for some reason, for a lot of reasons. And so he thought maybe he could just do both. Maybe he could be friends with his Christian friends, and maybe he could be friends with his non-Christian friends. And I want to give a caveat, like, obviously, we as Christians are called to have non-Christian friends, right? Like, we talk about that, like, all the time. Like, we want people to know Jesus who don't know Jesus yet. Like, Jesus was a great example of being friends of people who weren't followers of him yet. But I think there's a difference between loving lost people like Jesus did and loving the sin that they're doing. And I think my friend Joe, maybe he justified it like, oh, I just want to love lost people, but he actually loved the sin. He wanted both. And honestly, when you're walking a tightrope like this, and, you know, it's so hard to keep your balance, and it's such a fine line, any given day, it just takes one little gust of wind to push you in that direction. Maybe we had, like, you know, youth group that night, and it was like this, and he was all in over here. But then maybe some other day, he saw something shiny over here, little gust of wind, pushes him this way. He wanted both, but that was impossible for him. Like, what happens when, with his Christian friends, they want to push back on some of the ways that he's living, like we all do, right? The Bible calls that iron sharpening iron. That's what, like, we're called to do as brothers, right? Like, we who are the family of God are supposed to sharpen each other. Well, that contrasted with just numbing himself with booze, which one was going to win out? Or what happens when he disagrees with something at the church and he gets kicked off the worship team because he wasn't very good at drums? What happens when you have that versus, oh, they just love you for who you are for now? And you can feel like rejection from the church. Like you see those little gusts of wind just pushing him off the tightrope, falling into that camp. How did the story end? Well, you already know how it ends, unfortunately. You already know where he lands because nobody has the balance to walk that tightrope for very long. And he fell in with the wrong crowd, you could say. And two things are kind of true about Joe's story. One, he knew what he wanted and he got what he wanted. Like he says he wanted both maybe. He liked the way it felt to go to Christian things, but he knew what he wanted and he got it. Two, I crumble when I think about this story because I would do anything to go back and fight harder for my friend. Anything. My question for you guys tonight is, do you have good friends? That's it. Do you have good friends? Do you have the kind of friends that will pull you towards Christ? Friends who will fight for you to step off that tightrope, do anything that they can to save your life, anything to pull you back if you are walking away from godly living and walking away from Jesus. Do you have those kind of friends? Open up your Bibles to Proverbs, guys. We're going to be jumping all around, and the verses are going to be on the screen, so you want to just write them down. We're going to be going like 6 or 7 different places in the Proverbs, but here's kind of what I want to bring to you tonight. Like pretty much like I feel like any big brother in like a 90s movie where it's like really cheesy and the older brother's like just pleading with the younger brother of like, hey, like don't fall in with the wrong crowd, right? Like I feel like it's a story I've seen on repeat on so many movies. That's honestly what I'm doing tonight. I am going to plead with you to pick good friends in your life. I want to plead with you to be a good friend as well. But my goal really, guys, is just to be a little gust of wind pushing you towards Christian friendship. Explore the value of how God intended friendship to be. And I want you to fight for one another, to stay in Christian community, okay? And so let me as an older brother kind of warn you about some of these people that I would consider to be bad news, okay? This is kind of the title of the sermon, and it's interesting. It's kind of silly, but I like it. It's 6 bad friends you don't want to have and 1 good one you do. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of just go through 6 different parts of the Proverbs. Boom, 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 boom. Proverbs talks a lot about friendship. And I'm just going to kind of take them, twist them in a negative way, and show you kind of caricatures of 6 different friends that honestly you don't want to have. And end with one surprise one that you do want to have. Okay? So first things first, Proverbs 27:9. Proverbs 27:9. First things first, it says this: oil and incense bring joy to the heart, and the sweetness of a friend is better than self-counsel, okay? Proverbs 27:9. What's going on here? It's comparing the pleasantness of oils, okay? Something I know you guys know a lot about out there, okay? How they exist in order to be applied to your life and do what? Make you happy. Right? That's the point of these oils he's talking about. He's contrasting that, or comparing, I should say, comparing these oils that are made to make you happy with what? The sweetness of a good friend. The sweetness of a good friend, how it refreshes you to your core. Okay, take note. This language that's using, I find it a little bit corrective for us. Christian friends, here we say this, Christian friends, this is corrective to my friend Joe in high school. We are not babysitters, okay? Christian friends are not first and foremost babysitters. Think of a babysitter, a boring but necessary part of my life, right? A killjoy, right? That is not what Christian friendship is about, to babysit one another. Contrast that with a good friend, a true friend, I think has what you need, and they have what you want. I think of a Christian babysitter as like something you have no interest in, like, okay, I know I need this, but I don't want it. Well, a Christian friend, a true friend, I think is something you need, and I think it's something you want. Is that possible? This is the problem that I think my friend felt on his tightrope. One side is good. He looks over at his church friend and say, that's good. But he looks over on the other side, he says, that's fun. Have you guys ever felt that before? Where you're looking at Thursday night or Sunday morning and you're like, that's good. But man, there's a lot better things to look forward to out there that I think are more fun. I think we've all felt that in so many different ways. And so, true, this says that good friends, they counsel you, right? See that it says they're better than self-counsel, these friends. But does that mean a friend giving you counsel is supposed to be a buzzkill? Is that supposed to mean they're going to kill the mood every time a Christian friend steps in the room? I don't think so. Look at the effect of that friendship. What's it say? Joy and sweetness. This is supposed to be fun, guys. Like, we are actually allowed to be happy in here. Like, we are allowed as friends who are Christians to have fun together and to be full of joy and sweetness. The goal of Christian friendship is not just to use one another to feel more holy so we can then go do what we want afterwards. Like, you're not here just to feel good about yourself and use one another so that you can go do whatever you want. No. In one way or another, it's pretty clear that God gives us friendship to enjoy. Okay, and so the first bad friend I want to talk about, I want you to stay clear of out there, is that the friend who wants to use you but doesn't want to have any fun. Okay? I actually believe this. Like, stay away from somebody who especially says they're a Christian friend who wants to use you, but they don't actually seem to have any fun with you. So sometimes being on stage and getting like coffee dates with you guys every once in a while, it can kind of feel like a confessional, right? It feels like, maybe you act differently or uptight or something around me, and that's okay. I don't get it, but whatever. I can respect it. It kind of feels like we're sitting in a box and can't really see each other. But maybe like some of you Connect group leaders have felt that, like you have people in your group and they're just there and you can just tell they're trying to check the religious box. Like, I'm going to put on a face here. I'm going to say all the right things. I'm going to do this because I know I'm going to do it, but I'm not really going to engage with discussion tonight. That's okay. Maybe some of you guys would admit to that tonight, that you go to your connection group simply to check a box because you know that's something that you should do even though you're miserable there and you're not having any fun. Okay? I know a lot of people have been there, but I'm telling you, I think that's incredibly sad. I think it's sad if you feel like you have to be here or you have to have Christian friends, but you're not enjoying them. That you're using one another to feel holy, but you're not actually having any fun. That's sad because Jesus designed friendship. Like, he intended friendship to add joy and sweetness to your life. Maybe you've just never heard that life with Jesus and life with Jesus people is supposed to be fun. And if that's the most profound thing that you hear tonight, I think you're going to miss a lot. But I also think that's a good place to start, okay? This is supposed to be fun. And get this. I think the person who's more at risk than using other Christians, the person who's most at risk for using other people in this room is me. People in ministry, people on staff, people who are on the stage, right? It's the ministry leaders. Like, you can be so useful to me. You know what I mean? You're a leader? Oh, sweet. Let's get to work, leaders. Let's make this thing bigger, right? Numbers, right? Let's grow this thing. You can be useful, right? No, that's gross, okay? We are supposed to be friends here. We are supposed to enjoy one another, not use one another. Like Jesus, he's set us all out on an adventure, but he has sent us together. The friendship comes before the mission, guys, and that is so good because there will come a day when we are not useful to one another, you and I. Like, you will look at me and you'll be out of college and you won't care about me. It's like, I'm not useful to you. And I'll look at you and I would never say anything that mean, but maybe something like it, right? We're not useful to each other. Well, good news, that day we can still love one another because we know our relationship is not based on being useful, but we're just having fun together, okay? You don't want friends that use you, trust me. It's not even a friend. We got to cover that first, okay? Next one. Do you ever get insecure that you don't have very many friends? Yes. a lot of people here. That is okay. Read this. Proverbs 18:24 says this. One with many friends may be harmed, but there is a friend who stays closer than a brother. Okay, what this is saying, guys, that you don't need a lot of friends to have friends that deeply matter in your life. You don't need a lot of friends to have friends that deeply matter. In fact, many friends might actually be a smokescreen for somebody who has a lot of shallow friendships. It might be a little bit of a guise going on there, okay? And caveat, this is a bit of a personal thing. I think that you can have a ton of friends and have a ton of deep friendships. I don't like when people oversimplify it and say, well, if you have a lot of friends, that means you're shallow. No, it depends on who you are. It depends on what you want. I think you can have a lot of friends, and they can all be, or at least a lot of them can be really deep. But I think this verse, Proverbs 18:24, it is emphasizing that depth is really important. Depth in your friendships, guys, depth in your Christian friendship, it is incredibly important. And we know how it looks, right? Like a cloud of people around somebody, it looks really good. It looks really exciting. This person looks like they have a lot of security and they're happy. But this proverb here, it's reminding us that we don't have to settle for just having revolving door friends, right? In your life 1 minute, out the next. Like, we don't actually have to settle for that. In fact, someone who has lots of surface level friends might have their own struggle. Okay, the next friend that I want you to watch out for is the friend who won't go deep with anyone, okay? A friend I don't want you to be to others, a friend I don't want you to settle for is the friend who won't go deep with any of us. And some of us, we know this, we can talk up a storm in a crowd, and then C group comes, right? You're in your connection group, or somebody brings up something important in the Bible or just asks you about your walk with God, and you get quiet as a mouse, right? You were talking big game about football 5 seconds ago, then all of a sudden it gets serious and you're done, right? Like, you're good at interacting, but the moment somebody shines a light on your heart and your soul, it's just like you shell up, right? You're good at going a mile wide and an inch deep. And it could be a couple reasons. Maybe one, you just don't care about people to ask them very deep questions about themselves. You don't care about them. That could be part of it. But second, maybe you're just terrified to be fully known. Why would you be terrified to be known? Well, it's a recipe for rejection, isn't it? Like if I knew every single thing about you right now, if I could just see transparently through every single thing you did this past week, like, would you feel like, oh my goodness, like, we couldn't be friends? Like, he's gonna reject me. We all fear that. To one degree or another, I think we all fear that. But guys, don't you dream of being known? Don't you dream about somebody out there who can know you fully and not reject you? Where you can actually be your truest self. Like, they could actually know all the good stuff that you try really hard to do, and they would see all the bad stuff and all the ways that you failed. They get all of it, and they look you right in the eyes, and they don't reject you. Don't you dream about that? It may sound scary, but doesn't it sound relieving to live honestly? Have you ever let anyone in on your life, guys? Like really, have you ever just opened up with somebody? I think just like a baby step for you, if you're like, that's stupid, I have never even been told to do that in my life. That is incredibly invasive. I'm like, yeah, I know. And it's amazing. And like, my baby step to you is, like, meet us at the table in the back tonight and get signed up for a connection group. It's a small group that meets outside of this big room because, you know, you can come in here and there's 500 people. You can hide. You can totally hide. You can come in and take stuff in and just leave and not be known. But I'm saying there's so much joy and so much friendship that happens in connection groups from bringing your true self and not being rejected. Rejection is just worldly thinking, guys, but we want to befriend each other in love, which actually, get this, requires the worst parts of us to be shared with one another. I can't tell you guys how much my life changed back in that high school youth group when I was with my friend Joe, and we were over here on this side of the rope, at like a youth retreat or whatever, and the youth leader just had the guts to just be like, all right, what do you guys struggle with? Who's got some sin they want to talk about? And I was so scared. I was like, dude, we don't talk about that. But then guess what happened? Like a little mini revival happened. The next thing you know, like we're all just light. We're all free. We're just like, oh my gosh, you struggle with that too? Oh my gosh, like I thought I was the only one. And it's just amazing. I remember how it felt that night to be known and to be seen and to realize, oh my gosh, my sin doesn't have to count against me. Like those secrets don't have to define me. Nobody in this circle is rejecting me. I think those are true friends. And then I got to college and I did the whole C group thing and I decided to lead a connection group. And we're always told as connection group leaders, like, hey, lead out in like confession and transparency and being honest with one another. And man, it was so awkward. Always. But it's totally worth it. And the friends I still have to this day, I know, and I do, call them, meet with them, and just let my guard down with them. That is Christian friendship. What a gift that has been to my life, guys. A bad friend might make you choose between having fun or going deep. That cannot be us, okay? Next up, let's keep moving. And this sounds like a tongue twister, okay? But don't worry, it's simpler than it sounds. Proverbs 27:10 says this: don't abandon your friend or your father's friend, and don't go to your brother's house in your time of calamity. Better a neighbor nearby than a brother far away. That could be confusing at first read. Don't get lost. If you have a brother tonight and you love him, that's cool. This is not saying that brothers are bad, but sometimes brothers move away, okay? This is saying that one of the best qualities that a friend in your life can have is just to be close and available. Close and available. One of the most underrated qualities of a friend in your life. Be close and be available, okay? The people that you know and trust the most, they might live 1,000 miles away soon. Okay, you're in college right now. You're all living on top of each other. There's like 7 of you in a house. You're living with roommates in the dorms. This is a weird season of life. This is not normal, I don't think. I don't think you're going to keep living in the dorms after you graduate. I don't think you're going to always be looking for 5 or 6 other guy roommates, okay? Like, this is unique, and it will come to an end. You are going to go, and your journey is going to continue, and at times, you are going to have to move away from your friends. Some of you have met some of the best friends you will ever have in this room or in your connection group, and you will move away. Don't start crying yet, okay? It's going to be okay. But those people that you trust, they're going to be gone. And I'm telling you, yes, stay in touch. That's good. But even if you own a phone, I'm telling you, I'm begging you to believe me, you need a friend close by. You need, no matter where you go in your life, maybe this is actually a past tense thing and you have left high school and you feel like you don't have any friends here and you're just like, I'm just going to stay in touch with my high school friends and go home every weekend and just FaceTime all the time and not get close with anybody here. Stop that. Be here. Be present. Stay in touch, yes, but you will need a friend close by. Sadly, guys, I know a lot of people who have never actually made a good friend post-Iowa City. They came here, they met Jesus, they did the whole thing, they got plunged into community, and they have never made a good friend since. They call this place the friendship capital of the world sometimes. Has a good ring to it, don't it? Iowa City, the friendship capital of the world. Put that on the sign, please. But I'm seeing these friends move away, and they get what we call the friendship capital blues, okay? They go, has an even better ring to it. They feel like nothing will ever be as good as college. Nothing will ever be this, and I'm just going to try my best to stay in touch with my friends 1,000 miles away. Get this, guys. The friendship capital of the world was never about a place or just a group of friends. It was about Jesus Christ in you. It was Jesus who was the glue and the magic in your friendships, and it is Jesus who is going to be with you no matter where you go after this. He promises he is going to go with you. And so don't buy the lies that your best days, especially your best friendships, all have to be behind you. Okay? Bad friend number 3 is this: the friend who hasn't talked to you since the good old days. And when I say bad, I don't mean bad like anybody who moves away is bad. I mean bad in the sense of it's bad if that's the only friend you still have. you should keep in touch. Like I said, that's fine. But I think our instruction from the Proverbs is don't daydream about the best friend who's not in front of you when God has an ocean of potential friends that he wants to bless you with. You just got to look up. You just got to knock on the door next to you. You just got to meet somebody during meet and greet and actually care about it. Just kidding. Those are really awkward times. I'm not going to put any pressure on that. God has more for you. Even if you never make as good of a friend as you made in college, don't give up. And if you think life, guys, especially life with friends, goes downhill after college, I don't want to read this, what I wrote in my notes, but I said, you're so dumb. Okay, I'm not going to say that. Life is good after college. And the days just keep getting better and better, and friendship gets sweeter and sweeter over time. So you have a ton to look forward to, okay? So take heart. Okay, next one is fun. Proverbs 27:6. The wounds of a friend are trustworthy, but the kisses of an enemy are excessive. Anyone kissing their enemies lately? No, I don't think so. These kisses are a picture of deception. It's saying, hey, it's easy even for an enemy to do the easy thing, to say what keeps the peace, to make you feel good. It's easy even for an enemy to do that, but what about when hard truths are needed to be said? What about when someone needs to speak a hard word into your life? That is reserved for true friends. Okay, bad friend number 4, you got to stay away from is the friend who's afraid of conflict. They're not going to do anything for you. The friend who's afraid of conflict is no good. Have you ever had a friend who wasn't afraid of conflict? I'm sure that person's popping right into your mind, okay? Like, they're truth speakers, right? They say that just because they're angry all the time. But I say the truth. Say it like I see it. Okay, I remember a funny story about my first leadership interview when I was a freshman going to be a sophomore. And I wanted to be a connection group salt company leader that next year. And the salt director was like, oh, yeah, your connection group leader has a lot to say about you. I'm like, okay, nice. I bet it's all good. And why would it not be? And he said, yeah, you love to talk a lot about what you read that week. And you have a lot to share with the group. Like, my connection group leader threw me under the bus so hard. And I was so embarrassed. I was called, like, granted, he didn't have the guts to come to me face to face and say that. Connection group leaders, you don't just need to wait till their leadership interview to, like, tattle on them or anything like my C group leader did. Just go right to them. Don't be afraid of the conflict if you love them. But I forgave my connection group leader. And he was a groomsman in my wedding. So you know we're good. And guys, maybe tonight you were my friend Joe and you're like walking on this line and you're really trying to get the best of the Christian life, but also like, man, you just love your sin. You love what the world is offering you. And you have a friend over here who's trying to call you to Jesus. They're trying to call you back. They're trying to go, and you might be tempted tonight to hate them. You might hate them for that. But I'm pleading with you in the spirit of Proverbs 27:6. Listen to them. Do not hate them. I envy their boldness. That is a hard thing to do, but I think this is the best test of true friendship. Will you say the hard thing? Because if you actually love someone, truly love someone, then you're actually able to put even their opinion of you behind what you think is best for them. Okay, let's keep rolling, guys. I told some of you guys, well, I mean, if you couldn't tell, sometimes we started off pretty light and it's getting a little bit heavier as it goes on. Couple verses here I want to take pretty seriously, okay? Proverbs 22, verses 24 through 25 say, don't make friends with an angry person, and don't be a companion of a hot-tempered one, or you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Bad friend number 5 is a friend who's a hothead. Stay away from this person. Don't give too much of your life to the hothead. And I'm making 2 strong observations from these short verses here, okay? One, if you are still convinced up to this point that who you hang out with doesn't matter and doesn't affect you, notice how you become like who you surround yourself with. Do you see that? Like, you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Like, don't overestimate how strong you think you are and how you are never going to be the one to change in that friendship. You are. Nobody wants to stick out like a sore thumb. Like, we will do what we can in community to fit in, even if it means compromise. Character is contagious, all right? That's my first observation. My second one, there's like, we don't talk a lot about anger on any given Thursday, and so I'm really glad that it's here in the Proverbs. I would just say stay away from friends who have a short fuse. Be careful with the short fuse. It's not fun to be with someone who is possessive over you, trying to control you, or needing everything to go their way or else, right? If you're spending a lot of time around people like this, I would say be careful. And the last thing on that, guys, if you think that's actually describing you and not your friends, if you're like, man, oh gosh, I think that proverb is actually talking about me, and maybe you don't want to be like that hot-headed friend for somebody else, I want you to sit in this. Galatians 5:22 and 23. It's not on the screen, but it just says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I would just encourage you to find a good Christian friend, be discipled by people who walk and even react in their everyday life in the Spirit, not the flesh. And you're going to see a cool thing. You're going to see that fruit start to change you. Lengthen your fuse. Watch out for those hotheads. Okay, last bad example to watch out for tonight, guys, is Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all time, and a brother is born for a difficult time. A brother is born for a difficult time. Bad friend number 6 that I kind of want to steer us away from is the friend who is nowhere to be found when tragedy hits. Nowhere to be found when tragedy hits. We don't want that to be us. We don't want that to be descriptive of our closest friends either. Last week, I got to see a really old friend, okay? I remember same high school youth group I'm talking about. I got to meet a dude when I was a little older. He was coming a little younger. He was probably 14 or 15 when I met him. His name was Tyler. And I did not like this dude, okay? He wasn't funny like my other friend. He didn't talk. He wore like cutoffs and like flat bills, but like not in a cool way. Like everything was just a little, nothing, I don't know, whatever. I could go on about just like, when you're an older guy in high school and you see a younger guy, you're like, dude, you're trying way too hard to be cool. That was him. Didn't like him. Until we went to New York City together on a little mission trip, a little evangelism, talk about a fun, scary, awkward trip. But I got roomed with this young freshman guy, and I was really mad about it. Until I realized he was kind of cool. You get forced to spend a week in New York, somebody had a great time with him actually. Became friends. Got to see him grow, incrementally throughout high school. Yeah, he was a good guy. We were kind of close. Then he comes to Iowa. It was awesome. He gave up on his football dream. He was never going to make it. And he transferred to Iowa. It's not that. If you knew him, you're like, yeah, totally. Why'd you even try? And he comes to Iowa, and, we just stayed friends. I started to just appreciate him more and more, and I could literally just see him slowly growing more and more. Became a SALT leader, all this stuff. And then Tyler got cancer. And it was crazy. You guys, everybody has been affected by that. Nobody sees it coming. The shock factor is like nothing else that life throws at. It's like nothing else. And he had such a small chance to live, and he ended up living. It was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle, and it bonded us together, like nothing ever had. Being able to be there with me and Dalton in the hospital room with him and praying with him and his family, it was amazing. We'll never forget that. Like Christ was palpable in that room. Our friendship was just more and more clearly displayed as, man, I think Jesus is the foundation of this friendship. This is awesome. Tyler and I going, getting married. Awesome girl. She was a SALT leader. Loved her. I joined a fantasy football league with Tyler. Been going strong for a long time now. So do we stay in touch? During the season, at least. And so we're getting together at our fantasy football annual gathering this past fall, and we give life updates. And it's cool. All 12 of us are believers now. Everybody's following Jesus. It's so cool, guys. And so that wasn't always the case. And we're just going around giving life updates. And it gets to Tyler, and it was so improbable that he lived with cancer. And it was also proving to be incredibly improbable that he would and his wife would ever get pregnant. And it was such a cool season because they had gotten pregnant. And we were thrilled. But we get to that circle of life updates, that fantasy football and stuff gets real. Because we weren't talking about football. He was telling us how his daughter in his wife's womb, I'm not going to get all the technical terms right, but her skull wasn't forming. And she was going to die. There was no hope for his baby to live. And the crazy thing was there was months and months left, and they didn't know, like, is this going to be tomorrow that she dies, followed by like a stillbirth, or is she going to make it all the way to, fresh air? Well, last Friday, I went to Tyler's daughter's funeral. She made it all the way through pregnancy. She tasted fresh air, and she lived for 90 minutes. And I got to go to the funeral of a friend that I have known for probably 13-ish years. And I got to hear him stand up and share the gospel at his dead daughter's funeral. I realized this is not the 15-year-old punk that I didn't really care for back in the day. This is a man of God standing in front of me who had been chiseled by suffering. This was a real friend. And the punchline of that is not really like, man, brother's born for a difficult time. I'm really glad that he had me up there at that funeral to give him a hug and to say, I'm proud of you. No, guys, it was an honor to be able to sit in that crowd and thank God for this friend who I've had for 13 plus years now, singing alongside of him a song that we're even going to sing later tonight, How I Long to Breathe the Air of Heaven. Singing that with a friend who we might not ever live in the same place again. Our fantasy football league could crumble. It won't, but it could. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, he has built his house on the foundation of Jesus Christ. And so he's going to be my friend forever. So when I ask you guys, do you have good friends? That's what I'm talking about. Friends who are bonded to you, and Jesus can only be the only explanation, where you can share moments like that actually matter. And I know some of you guys are walking in here on that tightrope tonight, trying to get the best of both worlds, trying to please two different groups of friends, trying to balance your life, and you want the best of the Christian life, you want the rush of sin. I know some of you guys in here are just struggling to find friends in general. That's really hard for you. Some of you are struggling to be a strong friend who says what you need to say. No matter where you're at tonight or who you are, this is what you need to hear, is that there is one good friend that you need beyond the shadow of a doubt. There's one friend that if you miss anything tonight, you cannot miss this. And it's John 12:15. It says, this is my command, Jesus says. Love one another as I have loved you. No one has a greater love than this, to lay down his life for his friends. You're my friends if you do what I command you. I don't call you servants anymore because a servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I have called you friends because I have made known to you everything that I've heard from my Father. Can you believe that Jesus wants to call you his friend? I think these guys had to be shocked, right? One person in the Bible ever, Abraham, was called God's friend. What an honor. But are you, am I as shocked as the disciples that Jesus would call us friends? I think it means a lot, but there's something unmistakable, something unique about friendship that you can't skip over. It's that you pick your friends. Siblings, nope, you have to love them. You don't pick your siblings. But friends, you say, I choose you. And that's what Jesus says to us, I want you. I choose you. And what does it mean that he chose you? How did he show that? Well, like a good friend, it says the friend who would lay down his life for you. He said that's true friendship. I feel like this is the one thing that all of my friends in my life who have walked away from the Lord, who have kind of tried to walk that tightrope and fallen into sin, like this is what they don't understand. They've heard a million times that they should live a certain way for Jesus, but I don't think they ever knew the invitation to enjoy life with Jesus as his friend. And so tonight, I guess, are you going to bow your knee to him as your king? And are you going to walk out of this room with Jesus as your friend? I'm telling you, if you don't hear me say anything, who your friends are matters. And Jesus is here and is offering himself in friendship for you. So just kind of to close, I don't know if I've said this on stage. I don't think I have. But this is my last year leading Salt Company in Iowa City. I've been here for 12 years now, and this is my 6th year as the director of Salt. I didn't get fired or anything. But Cole Williams is going to be the Salt director. That's super exciting. We love Cole. He's an incredible man, an incredible Bible teacher. My wife and I are going to be pursuing what it looks like to plant a church after this, move out of Iowa City, and start this somewhere else. You're all invited. But I just want you guys to know that this place has been life-changing for me. I knew Jesus before I came here, but I just want to say the friends that I have encountered here, the air of friendship, the expectation that we are friends before we are friends on mission together has changed my life for the better. And I'm already asking Cole and the gang, to come back and speak at a retreat, every year. I don't think I'm going to get asked to come back to speak at a retreat every year, but someday I will, hopefully. Someday. And when that happens, my hope, guys, is that this place would be more steeped in friendship than ever before. That it would somehow become even more of a focal point, more of the center of the bullseye than ever before. That you guys would love one another like Christ loves you. And that you guys would have each other's backs. That you guys would take these Proverbs seriously. And that everybody who's not here, who encounters what you have, would say, surely is something different is going on with these people, and I want in. And so I'm just going to pray for that to become true. God's already doing it. I'm already seeing it. He's been at work for a long time. But would God do more? And not more in the sense of would he just fill these seats up with more and more people? There's a lot of people here. That's okay. God will take care of that. But what I want is for the person in your seat tonight to feel like this can actually be your family. To feel like you actually have brothers and sisters here that you can be friends with for the rest of your life, Lord willing. And I know some of you that makes you sweat and freak out, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not very social. It's okay. But I do think there is something spiritual that happens when Christ is in the room. His Spirit binds us together in friendship like nothing the world can give us. And I'm just going to ask him to do that tonight as we go from here. So if you guys would pray with me. Jesus, we should be in awe that you would call us friends. God, we are sinful people. We don't want to be your friends all the time. We want to live our own life, be the master of our own souls. But God, you are the one who plucked us out of darkness, plucked us from death into life, and you call us friends. And so, Lord, would that friendship that you pour into us just go right through us? Would this become a place that is worthy of being called the friendship capital of the world? But would it not be just with our own charisma and personalities and whatever else we're trying to do here, God, but would it be you? Would people see the warm, inviting, friendly disposition of Christ when they see Salt Company, Iowa City? And God, if there's anybody in here I just want to pray specifically for anybody in here who's feeling lonely, that they're just struggling with this stuff. God, would you intersect their life with even a friend tonight? Would we all feel stirred to meet somebody new, not knowing, man, how much that could impact somebody? Would we really become a family, Lord? And so, yeah, as we worship you, as we leave this place, God, would we get away from trying to toe the line of just messing around in sin and listening to bad influences in our life, God? Be the louder voice tonight, Lord. Call us by your side. We know it's good, but God, we want it as well. Thank you, Jesus.